Hey guys, I'm in an area here, in a bottom area, in an area that I hunt of hill country, and I wanted to take a second to just talk a little bit about specifically what I have found a little bit of more consistent success with when it comes to hunting bottoms in areas of topography like this. Anybody who has hunted hills, I think you know how difficult it can be to hunt in these bottoms. You're just dealing with a lot of different factors. You have winds, swirling that you're going to deal with in these bottoms. You've got thermals that you got to think about. When that ground starts to heat up in the morning, about mid-morning, you're going to get thermals rising. When it starts to cool in the evenings, and then that first hour or so of daylight and everything, when that sun hasn't reached those ridges and that forest floor, you're going to have dropping thermals and everything. So there's just a lot to think about. And this is the type of area where I'm in right now, where I have been able to find a way to manipulate the wind and which way my scent is blowing as best as possible in these areas. What I have here right now is I've got a bottom that runs kind of starting from the southeast and runs up to the northwest. And then I've got ridges to my left and right here that are going to be to my west over here, and then to my east over here. And what I have found is that if you can find bottoms that almost serve as wind funnels like this, where you can get a consistent wind. So on this one, this funnel, this bottom kind of runs up this direction, and it runs up to the northwest up there, and then it kind of comes to a point, and then it gets to an open area up there, and it kind of dumps into this grassy area back this direction. And what I found is on a southeast wind, basically has to be almost perfectly southeast, I can get in here and I can hunt one of these trees right up over here, and I can consistently get this wind to blow back, and it funnels up through the bottom here and back that direction. So I can get a consistent wind done here when I'm hunting it on this. Now, if I were to try to hunt this on a more west-based wind or a straight east-based wind, what you're getting then is you're getting the winds are hitting these side ridges, and they're funneling back on you, and that's when you're going to start to get the wind swirl and everything. So if you can find little areas like that where maybe you have a drainage, and then you can get a wind that's going to blow that wind, and it offers an opportunity for it to almost serve as a wind funnel, and push your scent back. That's where you can kind of get consistent winds with it. On opening weekend in Minnesota in 2020, I think it was, I snuck in up a creek with those exact conditions, thinking, okay, I've got a south wind, and at that point it was blowing. It was a super windy day. It was about mid to upper 80 temperatures, with winds gusting to over 30 miles an hour. And so it was opening weekend. It was a Sunday of opening weekend of archery season, and I snuck in up a creek. And I got in there, and I used the creek bank, which was about 15-20 feet high on each side, to sneak in and stay out of sight of any bucks or deer that would have been bedded up high on these points that were on the ridges above me. I got into the tree, I went up a little high, and I was at about eye level as the main trail drops down into the creek crossing. And I got in there, and sure enough, my wind on those it's going to be more calm down there when it was that steep anyway, but the wind was consistently funneling on that south wind, blowing my scent back into the creek. It was dropping down into the creek, and then it was flowing down into the river that it hits. And I had a buck come down with about 45 minutes, hour daylight left, and he gave me a shot at about 15-18 yards that I was able to make a good shot on and kill that buck. Basically in a situation where if I would have hunted it on any different kind of wind, where it was running into that sidewall of those ridges, I would have been in trouble, because he actually stopped. He got to kind of eye level of me coming down that ridge, and he stopped, and I was about 15 yards from him, and I couldn't move. Luckily I had my bow in hand, because it was the last hour, so I did have my bow in hand. I was hunting out of my saddle, and I just kind of tucked myself up against that tree like I was a limb, and he stopped, and he scanned the area for about 15-20 seconds, and didn't smell anything, and just put his head down and walked down, and I was able to stop him and everything. But this area here too, I've seen that it works well on morning hunts, because you've got to outside of the ridge system here, you've just got an area that's kind of wide open grasses and sumac and mixed habitats, ponds, things like that. There's a nice little saddle that runs east to west over here, and it allows the deer to kind of stay down in this low ground as they funnel down into here. They come down here, they browse. I've got a nice slough right in front of me. That's another nice bit of habitat that kind of comes together here. And then this is a private piece over here to my west that I've never been on, but when you look at it on a map, you can tell that it's got nice benches over there, nice saddles that they can travel through, and nice bedding points. So they're bedding somewhere up over in there. I know a lot of times they're coming from my east over here, dropping down into the slow ground area, and it's just an area where you've got a number of different habitats coming together, some points dropping down into this bottom and everything. So find those thermal hubs, where those points drop down. You're going to see a ton of sign, generally speaking, lots of rubs, lots of scrapes and everything. They can be definitely hard to hunt because you got to think about access. You got to think about how can I get in here if I'm hunting it in the evening? How do I get in here without deer seeing me, without deer smelling me if you have rising thermals? So using a system like I talked about earlier, where you got a creek to block that site, because a lot of times deer are going to be bedded up on these high points overlooking these bottoms. So there's so much that goes into it, but if you can find these areas where you can get a consistent wind, put yourself in position to get this consistent wind, you got to get in here, you got to hunt it, you got to drop milkweed and just see how things perform in here, because it might work on a 10 to 12 mile an hour wind when it doesn't work on a 30 to 35 mile an hour wind when you start to get those really gusting winds and stuff. So you just got to get in here and hunt it and try to figure it out. But something to think about as you're out scouting and everything. If you can find one of those areas that's set up where you can get a wind kind of coming across a landscape that's going to funnel your scent up and through the drainage, it can put yourself in good position to be a little safer hunting these bottoms.